The Mona Lisa is not just a famous painting, nor even the most celebrated portrait in the world. It is an open question, a living mirror where the history of art, human mystery, and the obsession with beauty meet in silence. Leonardo da Vinci began to paint it in Florence during the early years of the 16th century, when his genius had already reached a maturity that blended science, philosophy, and poetry in every brushstroke. We know the model through historical documents. Lisa Gherardini, wife of the Florentine merchant Francesco del Giocondo, a middle-class woman, without noble titles, without apparent greatness. However, Leonardo saw in her a unique opportunity to take portraiture beyond all convention. He placed her seated before an imaginary landscape that does not exist on any map, a territory that seems like the geography of a dream, mountains that dissolve into mist, rivers that wind like thoughts, bridges that connect worlds that cannot meet. There, in that impossible setting, the figure acquires a timeless dimension, as if she did not belong to a place but to an idea. The face of the Mona Lisa is the result of a technique so meticulous that it seems supernatural. Leonardo worked with extremely thin layers of paint, almost transparent glazes, that he applied one on top of another, as if he wanted to build the skin from within. His famous sfumato, that soft smoke that erases hard contours, allowed him to create transitions so delicate that the eye cannot follow their trace. Modern analyses have revealed that the smile, that mysterious curve, is formed by a series of imperceptible shadows that change depending on the angle from which one looks. When the eye focuses directly on the mouth, the smile seems to disappear. When one looks out of the corner of the eye or concentrates on the eyes, it reappears like a whisper. Leonardo understood that perception is unstable, that the mind fills in gaps, that the human face is a territory of illusions. That is why the Mona Lisa seems alive, because she moves within us, not on the panel. Her eyes are another enigma. They seem to follow the viewer from any point in the room. And although this has been explained 1,000 times as a natural optical effect of the frontal portrait, in the Mona Lisa it occurs with a particular intensity. Leonardo studied the anatomy of the eyeball, the reflections in the cornea, the moisture of the tear ducts. Every highlight is placed with surgical intention to give the sensation that the gaze breathes. But the most extraordinary thing is not the technique, but the expression. The Mona Lisa does not look as a model subjected to the external gaze. She looks as a subject who thinks. In her eyes there is a serenity that is at once distance, intelligence, softness, irony. She does not offer herself. She does not hide. She does not seduce nor reject, she contemplates. And that contemplation turns the viewer into the observed. That inversion of the gesture was revolutionary. In a time when portraits sought to display status, wealth, or virtues, this bourgeois woman becomes a living presence. The posture is also innovative. The body turns slightly toward the viewer, but the head remains straight, creating a balance between closeness and reserve. The hands, crossed with a delicacy that seems to float, ensure an almost sculptural serenity. Leonardo hated rigidity, and therefore avoids all absolute frontality. He seeks internal movement, the gesture that suggests inner life. The transparent veil that covers her hair was a symbol of modesty, but also of social respect. However, Leonardo paints it almost like a sigh, a veil that does not hide but accompanies. Her clothing displays no jewels or embroidery, a detail that intrigues because women of her rank usually wore adornments. Leonardo decided to strip her of ornamentation so that the face and the light upon it would be the true protagonists. The landscape, one of the most discussed elements of the painting, is a kind of symbolic map of the Leonardesque universe. The left side shows a lower horizon and a path that seems accessible. The right, by contrast, shows a higher horizon, almost ascending with steep mountains. This subtle mismatch generates a feeling of instability, as if the world behind her were moving in different directions. Some have interpreted this as a metaphor for human duality, others as a way of giving emotional depth to the portrait, still others as a visual experiment to create interior dynamism. What is certain is that Leonardo was obsessed with water and organic forms, and in the landscape of the Mona Lisa he gathered his studies of erosion, river undulation, wind, clouds, and rock formations. The woman is thus placed between the human and the cosmic. The material life of the painting is as fascinating as its content. Leonardo carried it with him for years, retouching it ceaselessly. He never delivered it to the Giocondo family, which has sparked all kinds of theories that the work was not finished, that Leonardo became attached to it, that he used it as an example of perfection in his workshop. Later, the painting traveled to France, where it became a royal treasure and later a national jewel. For centuries, it remained in private collections, palaces, and finally in the Louvre. But its leap to global fame did not occur until the 20th century, when an unexpected event turned it into a myth: its theft. A museum employee stole the painting with a simplicity that seems impossible today, hiding in a closet and walking out with the panel under his clothing. The entire world went into a state of shock. The press obsessed, intellectuals and artists were questioned. Delirious theories appeared. Never before had a painting generated such collective hysteria. When it reappeared 2 years later in Italy, its fame was already irreversible. The crowds received it as if a lost queen had returned. From that moment on, the Mona Lisa became a world icon. Its later history has not been peaceful either. Throughout the 20th century, it suffered attempted vandalism, attacks, thrown objects, acts that forced the Louvre to install protective glass, create mandatory distance, and design an almost ceremonial security system to contemplate it. Today, the Mona Lisa lives enclosed in its own myth, surrounded by crowds who observe it for seconds, phones raised, as if it were an apparition. And yet anyone who manages to see it calmly in the midst of the tumult discovers that the painting remains intimate. The smile appears and disappears. The eyes shine. The landscape breathes. The panel pulses under the museum lights. None of its essence has been lost. As for restorations, the painting has been treated with extreme care. It has received only minimal interventions: consolidation of the wood, control of craquelure, stabilization of the paint. Many specialists fear that aggressive cleaning would destroy the extremely delicate glaze layer that sustains the life of the face. For that reason, its current patina has been accepted as part of its history, a temporal skin that coincides with its legendary aura. The cracks are like wrinkles of a living being that has crossed centuries. The aged varnish, although it slightly alters the original colors, has become a historical membrane impossible to remove without risk. The mystery around the Mona Lisa does not depend on conspiracies or hidden codes, although many claim to see microscopic letters, secret messages, or numerical clues in her eyes. The true magic lies in the unrepeatable combination of technique, intuition, science, and sensibility. Leonardo did not paint a riddle, he painted human complexity. The smile that is never fully understood, the eyes that seem to see more than they show, the calm of the body that contrasts with the immensity of the landscape, the mixture of modesty and confidence, of sweetness and distance, of serenity and involuntary seduction. All this makes the Mona Lisa not a portrait, but a state of mind. Its gigantic fame has also generated criticism. Some consider it a symbol of contemporary superficiality, of mass tourism rushing to take a picture without looking at the work. Other artists see in it an icon trivialized by infinite reproduction on t-shirts, mugs, posters, and advertisements. But the original work resists everything: parodies, excesses, mockery, obsessive devotions. It resists because its strength does not lie in what it represents, but in what it provokes. The gaze of the Mona Lisa does not age. Her gesture does not change with fashion. Her mystery does not wear out. Under the bulletproof glass behind the crowd, the painting continues to breathe. And so, 6 centuries later, it continues to be a living presence, leaning slightly toward us, with a smile that promises nothing and promises everything, with a silence that does not hide but reveals. The Mona Lisa is proof that art can contain what is hardest to capture, the instant in which a thought crosses a human face. Leonardo trapped that moment forever. That is why we keep looking for her. That is why she keeps looking at us. Inside that small rectangle of wood, there is a life that does not go out, a life that does not belong to the past, but to the perpetual present of all the gazes that find her. As the figure of the Mona Lisa continued to radiate its influence, scholars began to understand that its power lay not in a single element, but in the sum of an almost infinite number of tiny decisions made by Leonardo with unheard-of technical mastery. The panel itself, made of carefully selected poplar, was prepared with a base that would allow the oil glazes to settle like vapor on a stable surface. Leonardo painted so slowly that, between one layer and another, he could let days or even weeks pass, waiting for the oil to dry completely before continuing. That slow rhythm infused the portrait with an inner life that could not have been achieved otherwise. It was not fast painting, it was not mechanical craft, it was contemplation turned into brush. And that contemplation can be perceived in every micron of the skin of the face, where the warm tones emerge like a whisper beneath the porosity of the pigment, suggesting a real circulation of blood, as if the model still breathed in the climate of the museum. Even modern analyses have shown that Leonardo's hand leaves almost no visible trace. There are no evident brushstrokes, no abrupt gestures, no defined lines. The surface seems instead like the result of a natural process rather than a human act, as if the image had emerged on its own from the wood instead of being constructed. That dissolution of the stroke was deliberate. Leonardo believed that nature has no hard edges, that all forms are transitions, and therefore he sought to erase the boundary between light and shadow until both blended into a single breath. Hence the smile never settles, hence the light seems to change as one observes, hence the figure is at once soft and precise, present and elusive, intimate and distant. Even the composition, apparently simple, is orchestrated with a geometric perfection that is rarely mentioned. The Mona Lisa is inscribed within an invisible pyramid whose apex coincides with the exact point between her eyes and whose base rests on her folded hands. This triangular structure gives stability to the figure and, at the same time, directs the viewer's gaze toward the face, which is the true stage of the silent drama. Leonardo, obsessed with divine proportion and mathematical harmonies, knew that beauty does not depend solely on features, but on the relationship between them. That is why the portrait seems so balanced. Everything is in the precise place, not a millimeter higher, not a millimeter lower. But the story of the Mona Lisa is not limited to the delicacy of the technique. It also holds political and biographical secrets that nourish its legend. Leonardo lived in a tumultuous era, in which patrons changed with the speed of wars, and in that context the artist decided to take the painting with him when he departed for France. Invited by a king who deeply admired his genius, that a painter would take a commissioned portrait with him was not usual, and for this reason many historians have seen in that gesture a confession. The Mona Lisa was more than a commission. It was a personal laboratory, a summary of his investigations into human psychology, light, anatomy, and perception. Perhaps that is why he never delivered it. Perhaps because in it he condensed something he did not want to leave behind. Over the centuries, the work has been subjected to all kinds of interpretations, some profound, others extravagant, all attempting to decipher the secret of its magnetism. One of the most widespread theories holds that the smile is the result of an optical illusion based on how the human eye processes peripheral shadows. Another claims that Leonardo used music to create inner atmospheres in his models, seeking to capture the emotional vibration produced by a soft chord. Yet another proposes that the Mona Lisa contains philosophical keys about the balance between reason and emotion. However, none of these explanations is sufficient. The mystery resists because it is not hidden in a detail but in the whole. The portrait has also been the object of darker controversies. Some critics have interpreted the model's expression as a gesture of calculated seduction, others as a form of spiritual serenity, others even as a sign of pregnancy, a theory fueled by the position of the hands and the shape of the folds of the dress. These interpretations have generated heated debates, for the Mona Lisa is a mirror in which each era projects its obsessions. There were those who saw in her the representation of a feminine ideal that blends modesty and sensuality, and those who considered her a symbol of subtle emancipation, a woman who looks at the viewer as an equal. The truth, as always with Leonardo, is multiple. The portrait admits all interpretations because it excludes none. Another rarely mentioned facet is that of the symbolic landscape. It has been proposed that the rocks shaped by water represent the passage of time over matter, that the winding paths express the uncertainty of human destiny, that the distant bridge symbolizes the transit between two worlds, the visible and the invisible. Leonardo was an tireless student of geology, meteorology, botany, and hydrodynamics, and he captured in the background a compendium of his scientific observations wrapped in visual poetry. The result is a primeval, almost uterine world, where the human figure seems to sprout like a rare and perfect flower. Thus, the Mona Lisa is not seated on a chair but floating between two natures, that of physical earth and that of thought. Its consecration as a universal icon brought with it an avalanche of reproductions, parodies, homages, decontextualizations, and commercial uses, which, far from wearing it down, reinforced its symbolic status. Every new appropriation, from caricatures to digital experiments, from street versions to futuristic reinterpretations, demonstrates that the image does not belong to a single era but can be reborn under any light. No other painting has been so copied, so studied, so mythologized, and yet nothing replaces the experience of seeing it in person. There, beneath the protective glass, the work acquires a silence that no screen can reproduce. The materiality of the panel, the craquelure that looks like a map of stars, the faint aura that surrounds it, all of this is perceived as if the painting emitted a physical presence. The public's relationship with the Mona Lisa is also a unique cultural phenomenon. The crowd does not simply observe it, it pilgrimages to it. There is almost a contemporary ritual around its showcase. People enter, raise their cameras, move slowly forward, trying to find an angle where the smile reveals itself, even if they see it only for seconds. And although one might think that this ritual trivializes the work, the opposite occurs. The massive presence confirms that the painting continues to act as a magnet. No other painting produces that effect. Some attribute it to fame, others to mystery. The truth is that both elements feed each other. Its fame grew due to its mystery, and its mystery deepened with its fame. Finally, there is an even deeper dimension, the Mona Lisa as a mirror of the human condition. Her serene face, her half-smile, her gaze that seems to know something we do not know, awaken in the viewer an ancient unease. It is the unease of the soul when it recognizes itself in another human being. Leonardo managed to capture an inner state that does not belong to a particular woman, but to the spirit itself. That is why, despite the centuries, it does not age. The painting does not show Lisa Gherardini. It shows human interiority, the space where emotions meet before bursting, where thoughts form before being spoken, where life is felt before being expressed. That instant, so fragile and so profound, is what Leonardo captured forever. And so the Mona Lisa continues to be a threshold, a place where the gaze of the past crosses with that of the future. A painting that in its apparent simplicity contains an entire universe, a face that even though it has been observed by millions, never repeats itself, because with each gaze it is born again. A work that does not exhaust itself, because in reality it is not a work, it is a state of silence, of light, of suspended time. That is why, as long as there exist eyes capable of being moved, the Mona Lisa will remain alive, breathing from her small wooden throne, defying the fleeting nature of the world, with a smile that no one ever fully understands, yet everyone feels